IEEE EDC back again with another knife video. So this is the Benchmade Shootout. Interesting offering from Benchmade, sort of a new genre, I guess, of OTFs. The Benchmade obviously took off originally with the Griptilian, with, you know, a nice blade steel and some full Grivery scales, and then later on did the Bugout, which obviously gave people a really light EDC knife, also with Grivery scales, and they're taking that same concept now to the Shootout, which is essentially the first OTF that I'm aware of on the market that has Grivery scales and a really nice blade steel. Blade steel on this is going to be, I believe, CPM Cru-Wear. Yep, CPM Cru-Wear is the blade steel on this, and Cru-Wear is going to be it's one of my favorite steels. So just right off the bat, one thing I love about this thing is the blade steel, and we'll get into the size comparisons right after this. With the blade steel, Cru-Wear has very high toughness, and especially for an EDC style blade or just an OTF in general. OTFs generally will have a lower end blade steel. Sometimes they'll have D2, sometimes they'll have M390, or, you know, the Microtech likes to use M390 204P. Those tend to get a little chippy. This is the first one I'm aware of that has Cru-Wear in an OTF. So, like I said, first I'm aware of, or at least a major production knife with Cru-Wear, and also first major production knife that I'm aware of in Grivery scales. All right, let's do some size comparisons so you guys can get an idea. Probably the most important size comparison is going to be the Microtech Ultratech. So as you can see here, this is slightly larger than the Microtech Ultratech. Here's also the PDW, the Prometheus Design Works OTF. Now, the Prometheus Design Works OTF is, and I don't remember the exact model name of this, I'd have to go back and check, but you know, that's also a recent release. But as you can see, you know, just sort of over top, so you can see the size comparison. Blade is a little bit longer, a little bit taller, and just overall larger than the Ultratech. And the body of the knife is actually just a little bit bigger. Also, you know, and before I go on to the rest of the size comparisons, I just want to show you guys the buttons and sort of how pronounced they are as far as the firing button, so you get an idea there. So people who think, you know, there's not enough, who find these hard to open, this one's actually a little bit easier to open in that regard. All right, next up we have the, well, let's go ahead and look at the back here. So there's a glass breaker. Glass breakers are a little bit different on these, but as you can see, you're going to get a sort of a rounded one on that Ultratech, and you're going to get a pointed one on the Shootout. All right, let's go ahead and do some additional size comparisons. The Paramilitary 2 from Spyderco and the Para 3. And here is the Griptilian, or the Mini Grip, I'm sorry, that's the Mini Grip. This is the Griptilian here. All right, there we go. So, just to give you an idea, it is a fair, you know, it's not a small knife because obviously the Griptilian's a full-size knife. So again, you can sort of see the blade is similar to the Griptilian, but the handle's also going to be a little bit fat as well, and you're going to get a little bit more length on both the blade and the handle. Okay, now I am outside, so you might hear some crickets or something in the background, so I apologize for that. But let's go ahead and get into, like I said, the good and the bad in the knife. So like I said, a couple of firsts here, Cru-Wear steel, huge plus. This is the this is a Grivery handle, so that's sort of one of the main draws. Is this knife is really, really light. I mean, it's just a really, really lightweight OTF, and you know, I would say significantly lighter than the Ultratech, even though the handle's a little bit bigger. So, you know, again, I don't do really measurements on this channel, but I can tell you in hand, you can definitely tell a difference. This is a PVD, so you see all the scratches there. Most of those should come off with a magic eraser. Magic eraser is going to be your best way to handle that. And you're going to get a couple other good things on here. You're going to get that Parkerized clip, the deep carry clip, which is probably my favorite Benchmade clip. I like the mini deep carry also, but that Parkerized deep carry clip I think is my favorite one. The actuator on here is really nice. Now I will say it is prominent, so if you're, you know, like Nick Shabazz and you don't like the pocket pecker on your flippers, you're also probably going to have a problem with this. Like I said, it is pretty pronounced from the Ultratech. But if you know, just in hand, your hand does not, I have a size large gloved hand, and I'll go ahead and say now the ergonomics are excellent on this. Probably, it's got much better ergonomics than the Ultratech. And I'd probably say, you know, for an OTF, this is about an 8.5 out of 10, maybe even a 9. You don't usually see good ergonomics on OTFs. In any event, on the single edge, you know, you can go ahead and put your thumb up top there. You don't really get it digging into your finger up here, the actuator, when it's extended. But, you know, if you put your hand over top when it is back here, you will feel that that button, and you can sort of see it digging into my hand there. So just be aware that that is a thing. Next up, the glass breaker on here, like I said, is pointy. Well, we'll go ahead and talk about that in the bad, because that's kind of the bad. All right, grip on here is quite nice. So I do have to say that the, you know, just like the Griptilian, you're going to get some texturizing on the scales. And I'll go ahead and give you a close-up of the texture on here so you guys can see what that looks like. U.S. manufacturing, which is a huge plus for Benchmade. So this is U.S. manufacturing, and they did not send this overseas to do this. Like I said, this is a PVD, so it should clean up quite nicely with a magic eraser. I think I cleaned this up once or twice already, and it looked fine. So if I recall correctly. So anyway, that is the good. Let's go ahead and talk about the bad, because there is some bad here. So first of all, that button, like I said, is it digs in your hand when it's retracted, but when it's actuated, it actually, like I said, has that great ergonomic feel. It is pretty good in actuating, pretty easy to use, and I will say that's one of the good things actually, that it is really, really easy to actuate. However, one of the things people like about OTFs is that they hit hard, right? And you can sort of hear the sound there. Well, this just sounds a little bit cheap. Unfortunately, you know, if you like the sound of some of these metal, you know, metal handles, well, you're just not going to get that with a Grivery knife. And it is what it is. If you guys have ever had a Griptilian, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's sort of that Griptilian sound. Here, I have one. So you can sort of hear that sound. That is the Grivery sound, and here's sort of the Griptilian in the carbon fiber. And you can sort of hear the difference, right? Well, it's even truer for when you're dealing with a metal knife, that you're going to hear some additional difference. And so then you're going to get that definitely on the OTFs as well. And you sort of hear the rubbing, sort of a little bit of a squeaking on the internals of this, which is another drawback. But I assume that, you know, I could take it apart and oil it. I just haven't done it. If it was to be oiled or greased, actually would probably be the better way to handle it. I don't think that it would necessarily make that noise. But, you know, I don't love the fact that I would have to go in there and grease it. Benchmade should have done that in the factory. All right, next thing on this is the glass breaker. Like I said, it is pointy. You know, the rounded glass breakers do work. Obviously, you know, this is really pronounced because it has the screw on and everything from Ultratech, or from Microtech. But, you know, the pointed glass breakers I don't necessarily love, because when you, you know, when you put them in certain orientations, you know, or you have them rubbing up against certain things, they just poke you. Just not a big fan of it, and I don't often see a need for you know, a glass breaker on a knife. There's lots of other things generally that you can use as a glass breaker. It might have been cool to make the actuator out of, you know, or put like a carbide tip on the actuator and incorporate the glass breaker into here with a rounded edge. I think that might have been actually a better way to do it, and it would have allowed you to break the glass like this instead of having to sort of jab it that way. Just a thought for Benchmade. Benchmade, if you're watching and you want to do that, or anybody else, at least give me credit. Okay. In any event, the last thing is the price. So the price on this is $270. Now, if you want to go ahead and buy it, I definitely would appreciate if you would use the links below. It definitely helps the channel. I have a link to DLT trading and also a link to Amazon. I definitely recommend DLT if they have them in stock over Amazon. They are a knife retailer. They have our interests in mind as knife enthusiasts. But if they're out of stock, they're out of stock. And definitely check the Amazon link below as well. The last thing is the price comparison on this. So, like I said, $270. Base model Ultratech is $294. Okay, so if you're asking me which one of these to get between these two, honestly, I'm going to say the Microtech Ultratech is the better knife. This is better in hand. It's easier to actuate. It does hit a little softer, and I do like the steel. I like Cru-Wear better than, I think this is M390. Like I said, they change their steels around so often that it's hard to tell sometimes, but they tend to use similar steel. I cannot see, I don't know if it's marked. Yeah, I don't think it's marked. In any event, it's probably M390. But I do like Cru-Wear better than M390, 204P, XHP, any of those ones that that Microtech uses. I do like Cru-Wear better. Benchmade does a good heat treat on Cru-Wear, so I will give them props there. I also find that the edge is a little bit nicer to use on this one than on the Ultratech. Ultratech's edges tend to be a little bit thick. So if you are looking for like more of a thinner slicer, I would recommend the Shootout, but obviously it's going to feel a little bit different in the handles. I do like the aluminum handles better. This particular version, which I'll also try to link maybe to some different versions of the Ultratech below, because there's all sorts of colors and different things. This particular version is 347, I think. So the Molenlabe version, there are some, I think the dual edge Molenlabe version is like 313 or something. It's much cheaper. I'm not sure why the price difference, but for the single edge, it's 347, and there's like a Tonto version also. It could be that the 313 was pre-price hike for 2022, because I think it's showing out of stock. But in any event, that's what you're looking at as far as pricing. But I do know the base model Ultratech is $294. So again, that is the concern with the comparison and pricing in that regard. Just one other option while I have it here is if you do like a side opening auto, something like the Hogue Ballista or the ProTech TR3 are going to be excellent alternative options. You're going to get better EDC capability out of these side opening autos than you will out of the OTF. Some people just like OTFs, and if you just like OTFs, then take my recommendations with respect to the OTFs. But if you want an auto and you are open to an out the side, definitely look at the Hogue Ballista or the ProTech TR3. Those are going to be excellent EDC options around the same size range as the Benchmade Shootout. All right, thank you guys for watching. If you go ahead and give the channel a like, or give the video a like, give the channel a subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you get all my content. If you have any questions or want to just talk knives, go ahead and comment below. Appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. Oh, one last thing I will say, just final conclusions on this, I guess, is buy an Ultratech if you want an OTF, buy a Ballista if you want an out the side or a TR3. And if you really just want an OTF with light carry, then I definitely would recommend, I will recommend the Shootout. But I will say it's not for everyone. And there's a reason that online, I think it's gotten a little bit of mixed reviews, is because some people were disappointed that it didn't have more substance to it when they received it, but really should have been expecting to begin with that it would be as light as it is, since that's what it is intended to do. Okay, thanks so much.